What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Does the whole back to Eden method wood chip thing actually work? Let me take you into my 7-year-old food forest and show you the results I'm having. Let's go. I'm in the back corner of the garden now, just hanging out. So what is this whole back to Eden method anyways? Essentially it's just using a thick wood chip mulch. That does so much though. And it doesn't actually just have to be wood chips. Any organic matter will work. I get the question all the time, can I use cedar wood chips? Can I use pine wood chips? Can I use walnut wood chips? And one of the points I really try to get across is it doesn't matter what kind of wood chips you use. All of them work well. The main issue is always with the application if there's a problem. I just talked about that in one of the previous video, the wood chip video. And as you can see, when you use the right application, there's no issues with nitrogen. Look at these trees. Look at that big cherry. What a beauty. Does not have any nitrogen issues. I don't even water these trees, I just don't have time. We just had a big drought and one of the trees I came out and watered, but I did that because I didn't have the wood chips thick enough. So when you have the wood chips thick, all that moisture is really retained. When you get a big rain like I just had, it holds all of it in. That's what's so important. And you build a nice fungal network. And constantly, soil is being built by the microorganisms. You go from sand, which I have out of my lawn, to just soil that looks like this. And I did no work for this. This is what the worms do. This is what the soil life does. That's what, you gotta get these employed constantly. You should have your whole, wherever your growing area is, you need to be covered with a nice thick mulch, because all that mulch is, look through the mulch and it's just worms, fungus, life. We got Tuck in here hanging out today. Got him in the food forest. I missed having him in here. So sometimes I keep him out when things are small, but sometimes you just gotta have him in because I love the little guy. And he enjoys it in here. I just have to watch him on really hot days because he likes to dig holes underneath the trees. You find a nice cool area, but he's just hanging out among the raspberries now. Look at all these raspberries. This is gonna be loaded this year. We're gonna have to actually pull some out. I don't want them getting too dense underneath the tree. And you can see underneath that tree, it looks like something suspect. What is that? That's actually a peach. What? It's not growing though. That's actually just one we stuck in the ground because on one of our peach trees, on a branch I had to prune, we found a little praying mantis nest, which is great. If you can get some praying mantis nests in the garden, that's awesome. I produced a video on that, showing you guys just how to find those locally, and what season, what time. It's too late now probably, but, or if you live locally to me, but in the dormant season, you can go out and just harvest those, bring them into your garden, and then once you bring them in once, usually they just continue to come back. On a hot day like today though, it feels great to be hanging out in the forest, in the shade of the trees that you planted. I've got a plum tree right behind me. And like I said, it just feels awesome to be hanging out in the shade of it and enjoying the whole thing as I walk by a nice almond tree to my right and the Bing behind me, hanging out in the shade of her. It was a lot of fun. Look at this peach tree pruned to an open center behind me. Really important. And look how high all the fruit is up there. We want a lot of wind and a lot of airflow and a lot of light to get that. That's one of the reasons we have it as high as we do. And it's completely loaded with fruit, more than it's ever had on it. I pruned a good amount off this year, hoping, you know, to take off a good thinning, but it's still completely loaded. But the fruit is where we want it, up top there. Let's get back to talking about the wood chips and organic matter in general. Any organic matter will work. It's just about the application. People will probably say in the comments still, can I use walnut wood chips? Yes, you can use walnut wood chips as long as you layer them. You gotta start thinking about it, in my opinion, as less from a material standpoint and more of an energy standpoint. So when you're using organic matter, just think about how much energy it has in it. That's all you gotta worry about. So wood chips, in my opinion, have a huge amount of energy because it's not just the wood chips, it's the leaves, it's the needles, it's the sticks. In the past, you guys can go back to some of my older videos and notice I grew a lot of annuals in the food forest, and those annuals I kind of cut back and had that feed the forest the first couple years, just like it would happen in a standard lot if you just let it go. But then I realized that's not the correct way to do it, in my opinion. The way to do it is to get the wood chips down. And the reason is because in annual, you'll get 1 year of solar energy again, from an energy standpoint, packed into those annuals that you can then mulch at the end of the year. If you get a tree, think about a 40-year-old oak tree, massive. Think about 40 years of solar energy and putting that on the ground. Tuck found himself a good spot underneath the grapevine, next to the greenhouse. Happy it wasn't under a tree. And the grapevine is doing the best it ever has. Now that we've learned and we've had years of experience, we're doing it right. And we've got each branch has its own vine going across it to try to increase airflow. We've got this section all opened up here to bring a lot of air through, because one of the issues you can get with the grapes, especially around here, is brown rot, which is a fungus issue. Any growth that I see along the vine down here, I'm taking it off. I want only growth up top. So I'm gonna take this, anytime I see this, I'll take that off. I do the same thing with the fruit trees when I'm pruning to an open center. Any of that extra growth in the center, I'll take off. Here's the apple tree from seed, doing well, the Prigioni apple, as I like to call it. And then this apple behind it, Red Delicious, is absolutely loaded. And the reason they're so close together is because this one just came up from seed. I just threw seeds out here, broadcasted some apple seeds, this one came up. So I may actually just cut it down really low this year to open up light to the apple in the back so I can get a good amount of apples. We'll see though, I have to decide on that. The rhubarb's begging to be picked, but I just need the strawberries to ripen up as they're getting larger. So our first crop will be strawberries and the white currants in the back. We'll be those will be our first berry crop. And then the same thing with this grapevine. Any growth coming all along the stem down here, I'll pull off and then allow all this top growth here, which should do real well. This is the Concord, and this is the one we make jelly with. As some of you know, my goal with this channel is to get as many of you growing as possible, try to give you some education, some inspiration, some encouragement, and help you along the way, and share my mistakes and experiences to help make it so you don't make the same ones basically. But there's two main things that I come across and issues in the comments that people have. The first one's space. Regarding space, if you don't have enough, I can't guide you in a sense on what to do with that, but just try to be faithful with what you have, and I think something will open up for you. The second one that comes across a lot is mainly the cost. Some of you say that it's too expensive to buy the fruit trees, and that kind of makes me think of a story I heard once. A guy talked about it. He said he's got a friend named John, and he said, "John, I got a gold mine in my backyard. All this gold, as much gold as you can dig up, and John, come get some." And John said, "I can't, I don't have a shovel." And then the guy said, "Well, John, go out and buy a shovel." He said, "You know what they charge for shovel these days?" So think about that one a little bit, and you could have a gold mine in your own backyard. Are you willing to invest a shovel or not? The strawberries underneath the grapevine are doing great also. Some of the leaves are huge, biggest I've ever seen. And looks like we're gonna get a good harvest from these, but I have strawberries also on my side garden. Some of you probably don't even know about that one. We've got 3 food forests on this property, not just the 1-year-old and the 7-year-old. We've got the hidden one on the side. I'll have to bring you guys along for that one shortly. But the tomatoes are doing excellent. Everything out here is, for the most part, tomatoes. I've got my eggplant and my peppers still in the greenhouse. They're small. There are a few eggplant out here. You can see there, a couple peppers. For the most part, all tomatoes. I'm gonna be getting these in the ground this week. And this week I also plan on getting my cucumbers planted, all different things like that. This salad we've been eating, cutting it back and enjoying it. All from seed, self-seeded, which is awesome when you get those gifts like that. The garden that keeps on giving, and that's gardening in general. One thing I want to talk to you about is sowing and reaping. You probably heard it, you reap what you sow, but it turns out that's not completely true. You don't reap just what you sow, you reap a lot more. For instance, a tomato. You plant 1 seed, you think you're gonna get 1 tomato back? No, you get 5, 10, 15, 20, and then within each tomato, that's packed with seeds. The only thing is it goes both ways. For instance, if you sow to the wind, that old saying, you reap the whirlwind. So take a look at things. Make sure you're sowing in the right places, and make sure what you're doing is actually gonna produce good fruit for you. Another question I've heard before, someone asked me, it changed a lot. How many books have you read in the past 6 months? What are you doing to improve your garden or even your life? I wanted to show you all a few more things before I let you go. The potatoes are doing well. That pear is doing excellent. The grapes along the fence line. This hazelnut, I saw some places where it looks like it should have some fruit, should have some nuts on it, which is always encouraging. Here's a cherry that I just planted this year. There's gonna be a pollinator for some of our others. And the California poppy, which comes up on his own every year, adds a beautiful flower section to this front corner. We've got California poppy, cosmos will come up, and the echinacea is all coming up. A lot of flowers on the persimmons this year. So those look like they're loaded. Last year they fell off on us. We're gonna keep an eye on it. We're gonna make sure we have a thick mulch underneath it to keep that moisture in. And this Asian pear is actually one of our more reliable trees. And it looks like it has a lot of fruit on it again this year, which is great. This hazelnut is huge. It's gotten massive, put a lot of growth on it last year. So we're hoping this thing has a good amount of fruit on it. I haven't really checked and scanned it over to see yet. I just want to show you the annuals in the back corner, some of the brassicas and things. Some of you questioned in the comments that how am I going to be able to grow things when the trees get even bigger and things are shaded out? I'm not too worried about that. That was kind of the idea in the design. I want this all to be fruit trees in here, but I got a large harvest and I gained fertility of things growing underneath as years progressed along. And there's still things that will grow. I've got currants underneath, blueberries. There are a number of plants that can actually do well in shade. And since I prune these trees open, that helps to bring in sunlight. A lot of it is coming outside and just observing where the light moves and deciding whether or not you think you can plant something there and have it grow and produce. These annuals, these brassicas, we got in a little bit late. We were busy getting the new food forest started. That's no excuse. I think we'll still get a harvest from it. Back here, we have the raspberries that we dug out in the back. They were encroaching on the neighbor's fence line, so we wanted to remove those. Another cherry that we just put in, doing excellent, just last year. Blackberry, planted in the chicken pen, but we've got it sectioned off so they can't get to it. Looks like it's loaded with fruit this year. So getting that extra production in a space that most people wouldn't grow. If you don't have the space, get creative. I say it often that a lot of times the gardeners in the smallest space are the best growers. They've got to be so creative and they've got to utilize every single space and make sure that they get the best possible results out of it. So that makes you a good gardener. Sometimes when you got big space, you can just throw stuff out in and just hope something works with using ratios, but not in a small space. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments, because I'm having a tough time showing everything that's growing, especially not just in the food forest, but I've got the new food forest, I've got the side garden, I've got things planted in just so many different directions and different areas, so I'm not sure how I can really frame this into videos. Do you guys want some long videos, more of like an uncut version of me just walking through once in a while? Or do you guys like these blended videos? I like these blended because I get to share kind of a lot of what I'm feeling and a lot of the things that helped me and guided me and to be able to grow this forest. So just leave me down in the comments, because I want to stay connected. That's why I make these videos, like I said, to help and encourage you guys to grow, but to get connected with you. I know you guys might be in the same position with me, that you don't have a lot of people locally that like growing or are into growing food as much as you are. So to be connected with you and to have that opportunity, that's why I love doing this so much. So if you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. Check us out on Steam It. As I say, we love posting on there. James Prigioni, it's out.